Hey folks, welcome to day 11 of 30 Days of Laravel. Today we are going to talk about API resources. Well, chances are that at some point in your career you had to deal with JSON and return JSON data. And Laravel provides a very cool way out of the box to return JSON. So we have our posts page here. Let me increase this. And if I were to go into the controller right here, and instead of returning a view, just return the post variable, a collection. We already get some JSON data. And you can see that it's properly formatted. We have everything that we need. And this is all out of the box. The same happens when you want to return an instance. So here we have an array of objects, right? But if I go to post one and instead of returning a view, I just return the post instance, the same happens, but instead of getting an array of objects, I get a single object. Now, I can even go into the post model and hide a certain field. So I could say protected hidden and say I don't want to show the content on the JSON, and it's gone. So you have certain customization here. Now, this works well for small sized applications, but sometimes you just need more control over the JSON representation of your models. Sometimes you have to comply to certain specs and all of that. And this just makes working with JSON much more easier. And this is API resources. If I go here and type PHP artisan make resource, and I'm going to call this post resource, you can see that a file is created under app http resources, and we have this post resource file. Now, what's important here is this toArray method. And just so I can show you guys, on the index page, I'm going to have two tabs here, one of the index and one of the post page. On the index page, I'm going to type return post resource. I'm going to import it. And I'm going to say I'm going to say collection of posts like this. Let's run it. And you can see that we also get a JSON representation of our collection, but it's a little bit different. We have this data key right here. So it's everything is under data. And then we have each of the objects. Now, here's the deal. Here we can customize what we return for each item, for instance. If I were to go and say return an array saying ID 1, we only get ID 1. Now, the goal here is what we're saying right here is that it's just going to return the usual array representation of the model. So it's just going to return Laravel's default, but you have full control over this. So I could say I want the ID to be returned. So I can say this ID and I get the ID. I want the title to be returned, so this title, and I get the title. And I want the content to be returned. I don't want the created at timestamp. I don't want anything like that. And I could even say we're not going to talk about this right now actually, but you can even pass the path to some URL. So for instance, if you wanted to pass in the link to the show page, you could pass that. But we're going to talk about this in another lesson. But anyway, you have full control over the JSON representation of your model. And you can also customize this. So you may want to, create another field, something like short description. And you can just say str, let me import this, limit. Let me just check the signature. This content 5 like this. And you get the short description or the short content of your post. Now, this also works with relationships. If we go into post, we don't have a relationship yet, so I'm going to create one real quick. Okay, so I added a relationship real quick, and you can see that I'm even casting it to an integer, and you can see that it's right here under user ID. But you can go further, so you can go here and say PHP artisan make resource user resource. So we're now creating a JSON representation of the user model, and we're just going to leave it as it is. And under the relationship, instead of, passing the user ID, or you could do something like this. So we're getting the user here, but we're just passing the user instance right here of the model. You could pass a resource. So you could say user resource make. We use collection for collections of data, and we use make when we are dealing with a single instance. So if I refresh this, you can see that we are now still getting the same thing. But if I go into user resource and I say that I just want to return the name of the person, so this name, I only get the name now. So we're now referencing another resource from inside our own resource using, well, API resources. And the same goes to when we want to show a single instance. So I could say post resource. If I manage to write this, make post like this. And if I go into post one, you can see that we get the data for post one, and they're all inside this data key. Now, why is this important? Because when we're working with big APIs or medium-sized APIs or small APIs really, and you just want some organization and control of your data, this is very important. So on this post resource, I have full control of everything that lies within this post domain. And when I reference another resource here, I also have all full control of the resource on its own class, and it's all separated and segregated. So when you're working with APIs, I highly suggest that you use resources. They are very easy to use, and they are much more powerful than what I'm showing you here. So definitely take a look at the documentation. They can do so much more than what I'm showing you here. But this is just for you guys to have a glimpse of how resources work. Thanks for watching, and I see you in the next video. Bye bye.